Do you think you eat healthy, but your weight continues to go up, or you have more body pain than you used to, or you have high blood pressure, or diabetes, or even prediabetes? Then maybe it's time that you redefine what you call eating healthy. I'm Dr. Steve Hewlett. I've been a doctor of pharmacy for over 35 years now, and now I'm helping people get off diabetic medications, lose weight, and regain the energy through nutrition. I am also a speaker and an author of the book, Your Plate is Your Fate. I've gotten many people off their diabetic medications in less than 1 month. They've also lost weight and their blood pressure's been going down. And all of this just by changing the type of food that they eat. So, in today's episode, I want to make sure you understand exactly what the term eating healthy really means. So, when all these diets come out, you can very easily see whether they make sense or not. So, the first thing, what is considered healthy eating? What is healthy nutrients? And again, when you think about this, you've got to think about what our bodies are actually made out of. And I know I say this all the time, but people still seem to be confused. When you break our body down into all the basic elements, we are made out of fat, cholesterol, protein, vitamins, and minerals. That is what we need to be able to eat to replenish our body so our bodies can continuously heal and thrive and survive. Now, of those vitamins and minerals, those are called micronutrients because they're measured in milligrams or micrograms. Protein, fat, and cholesterol are called macronutrients because they're measured in grams. Now, when I said this and I said what our bodies are made out of, as far as the macronutrients, it's protein, fat, cholesterol. That's what it needs. It is not made out of carbohydrates. This is the key to everything. What are carbohydrates? And the reason I say this is because usually when I ask people if they eat healthy, almost every single person says the same thing. They start off saying, "Oh, I eat healthy. I eat salads." Almost everybody says that, like salad is a healthy thing to eat. Now, remember, our bodies are made out of fat, cholesterol, protein, vitamins, and minerals. When you're eating salads, you're not eating fat, very little. You're not eating cholesterol, very little. You're having very little protein, very little vitamins, and very minimal minerals. So you really aren't getting any of the actual nutrients that our body needs. I'm not against fruits and vegetables, and you'll see as I go through this, that's not what I'm saying. But they all are made out of glucose, and that's where the key is going to be. That's what the whole thing is about. So when you compare fruits and vegetables to man-made, laboratory-made food, all this stuff in the box, bottle, bag, and can with this huge, long ingredient list of all the chemicals they put in there. When you compare fruits and vegetables to that, fruits and vegetables are considered nutrient dense. There's a lot more nutrients in fruits and vegetables than there are on that. However, when you compare fruits and vegetables to meat, then meat is the one that is extremely nutrient dense compared to fruits and vegetables. So you get all the nutrients that you need when you eat meat-based foods or animal-based foods. And I want to make sure that you understand this as I go through. So first, what is a carbohydrate? A carbohydrate is just long chains of glucose. That's all it is. So anytime there's 50 grams of carbohydrates in a product, that means there's 50 grams of glucose. And this is very important because glucose is that's the chemical that's actually killing everybody by a slow, miserable death. Because when you kill yourself with glucose, it takes 10, 20, 30, 40 years of you trying to process glucose, turn that into fat before it actually starts getting into real damage, depending on how many fat cells you have all around your body. But once you start having this damage by eating this glucose all day long, every single day through your rest of your life, keeping your insulin levels high, what you end up doing is you start killing every organ in your body. So you don't just say that you're going to keep eating your ultra processed foods and die early. You don't die early. Medicine will keep you alive for a long period, but you're going to be having constantly going to the doctor, constantly going to the hospital. You're going to be on all kinds of medications. You're going to start getting a fatty liver, fatty pancreas, fatty heart, fatty kidney. Number one reason for dialysis is type 2 diabetes. You slowly lose every organ, including your appendages. You start losing your feet, you have your feet amputated, your legs amputated. This is a horrible death, and it's all because of glucose. And so I want to make sure you totally understand what glucose is. So first, glucose is called a monosaccharide. That means it's a single sugar. And there's three single sugars, three monosaccharides. There's glucose, fructose and galactose. Those are your monosaccharides. And then your disaccharides are when you put any two of those together. So when you put glucose with another glucose, that's called maltose. When you put glucose with galactose, that's called lactose. When you put glucose with fructose, that's called sucrose. And that is what table sugar is. That's also what high fructose corn syrup is. Now, table sugar, sucrose, is 50% glucose and 50% fructose. To where high fructose corn syrup is just a little bit more fructose. So it's 45% glucose and 55% fructose. But all of this contains glucose. Every one of these contain glucose. So just real quick, even though I want to make sure you understand exactly what glucose is, we'll just talk about fructose just really quickly. Fructose, remember, that's one of the monosaccharides. Fructose is 50% of sucrose and it's 55% of high fructose corn syrup, like I just said. Fructose, every single cell in your body knows how to handle glucose and turn that into energy. Every single cell in your body. None of your cells know how to handle fructose. They don't need fructose. You don't need fructose. So anytime you eat anything with fructose, which means fruit, because fructose is a fruit sugar. So when you eat fruit, sugar, or high fructose corn syrup, you're getting fructose. Fructose goes, since your cells don't need it, once you eat it, it goes straight to the liver, and that could turn into a few different things. A little bit of it can get turned into glucose if you need it, but you usually don't need it because you're usually eating it with glucose. Some of it gets turned into inflammatory mediators, so it actually can make your inflammation worse or give you inflammation. Some of it gets turned into uric acid, which does a couple things. One, it increases your chance of gout, which a lot of people have gout now. And the other thing it does is it blocks your nitric oxide. So it actually can make you more, increase your blood pressure, make you more hypertensive. But the main thing that fructose does is it turns straight into triglycerides, which is a form of fat that you're going to store in your fat cells. So every time you eat fruit or high fructose corn syrup, you are actually producing more triglycerides to be stored in your fat cells. And think of bears. What do bears do when they hibernate? And they get all the berries that are around them. They eat all these berries because they're full of fructose. That fattens them up, and then they go and they can sleep for the winter while they're hibernating. And all that fat is going to be used for their energy while they're sleeping. So fructose is still something that gets turned straight into fat. And remember, a full fat cell is what insulin resistance is. When you can't put any more fat in your cell, any more triglycerides, that cell becomes insulin resistant. So if you have increased inflammation, increased blood pressure, increased fat, then it may be because of the amount of fructose that you're eating. And that's why a lot of times they say, oh, look for the amount of sugar that's in a product. You want to know how much sugar, because that's actually saying how much fructose are you getting. Now, the other thing, people who want you to keep eating their man-made laboratory frankenfood, they are putting out the wrong message to everybody. They're telling you that fructose is not bad at all because fructose is low on the glycemic index. Just so you know, that makes no sense at all. Glycemic index is a measure of glucose. So obviously fructose is going to be low on the glucose index. Just if there was a fructose index, glucose would be low on the fructose index. So that makes no sense whatsoever. The fact is that fructose does not stimulate insulin like glucose does. And that's true. But that has nothing to do with that. It's automatically getting converted into triglycerides. And the fact that you eat almost every time you eat fructose, you're eating glucose also. The glucose with it is what stimulates the insulin. And then it turns all those triglycerides that the fructose just got turned into, it stores it in fat. So all of this is storing fat in your fat cells, and that's what leads you to type 2 diabetes. So I want to make sure you understand all that. If you had been told that type 2 diabetes is chronic, progressive, and irreversible, and you want to know the truth, and you want to find out better options on what you can do to reverse your type 2 diabetes and get off type 2 diabetic medications, just click the link below, grab a free 15-minute wellness solutions chat with us, and we'll see if any of our approaches of getting you off medications is a good fit for you. Sugar versus glucose. Okay, there's a difference. When you say sugar, there's blood sugar, and blood sugar is just glucose. So anytime you're talking about your high blood glucose or high blood sugar, that's just glucose. When you talk about sugar, that's usually the table sugar. You usually have a tablespoon of sugar in your kitchen. That is sucrose. So remember, I just said sugar and high fructose corn syrup is the exact same thing. It's glucose and fructose, to where your blood sugar is only glucose. But that's where the rub is. That's what's happening. We are actually bombarding our bodies with glucose constantly, and that is what's killing us. Our bodies can handle a little bit of glucose, but it cannot hold this onslaught that we give it. So just to let you realize this, back in 1965, it was estimated that we only ate 2 teaspoons full of sugar per person per day, only 2. Fast forward to 2015, and that number has been estimated now that people eat over 65 teaspoons of sugar per person per day. Now, this is sugar that we're talking about with the glucose and fructose together. So it's gone from 2 teaspoons per person per day to 65 teaspoons per person per day. And that was in 2015. That was over 10 years ago. I guarantee people are eating more than this. And you may think that's crazy, but when you think about one can of soda pop, one 12-ounce can of soda pop has 10 teaspoons of sugar. And you think about a soda pop, fruit juice, energy drinks, baked goods, cookies, candies, chips, crackers, everything that people eat all through the day. It's nothing but glucose. We are inundating ourselves with massive amounts of glucose, and our body's trying to figure out what to do with it. And what it does, it turns all that excess glucose into triglycerides and stores that in your fat cells. And it keeps doing that until your fat cells are totally full, and now you have diabetes. So what are the sources? There's different food sources where you get these carbohydrates. And remember, carbohydrates are just long chains of glucose. All plant-based foods have carbohydrates. Okay, so all plant-based foods contain glucose, but some contain more than others. So the least amount are your vegetables that grow above the ground. Okay, your lettuce, tomato, broccoli, cauliflower, all that. Those all have some glucose, but they grow above the ground, so they don't have that much in comparison to the vegetables that grow below the ground. So your things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, those real strong starchy. Yes, those starch are just long chains of glucose. And they talk about the high glycemic and low glycemic. It really doesn't matter. That's just somewhere to keep your eye off the ball. Because whether this glucose that you just ate gets into your blood slow, or whether it gets in your bloodstream fast, doesn't really matter. The fact that all the glucose is still getting into your bloodstream. So your body's still trying to figure out what to do with it. So yes, a low glycemic may make your insulin levels where it doesn't go as high, but it's still making your insulin level go high, and it's still turning all that glucose into triglycerides and storing that as fat. So if you have any glucose issues, you can have the fruits and vegetables that grow above the ground, but you might want to be careful about the ones that grow below the ground. The other thing, when you eat fruits and vegetables, eat them. Do not drink them, because when you drink fruits and vegetables, first, you blend it up and you break all the fiber that's in there. And if you're going to eat fruits and vegetables, you really need the fiber. And that's what keeps the fruits and vegetables in your intestinal tract for a long period of time. Again, lowering the glycemic index. When you break that down, you break down all that fiber, all that glucose that you just ate is going to get straight into the bloodstream, and that will make your glucose go up quickly and your insulin go up quickly. So that's the only reason that you need to have fiber, is to keep these in your intestinal tract for longer periods of time. If you eat mainly animal-based foods, fiber isn't an issue. You don't have to worry about that, because protein and fat stay in your intestines for a lot longer than glucose. Like we're talking like almost a day longer. So eat your fruits and vegetables, do not drink them. Now, so we talked about vegetables above the ground and talked about the vegetables below the ground. Now, as far as fruits, there are different fruits have different amount of glucose. So fruits that have high glucose content are things like bananas, pears, apples, oranges, pineapples, grapes. Those kind of fruits have a lot of glucose. So if you are diabetic or pre-diabetic or obese, because that means you are also pre-diabetic, whether you know it or not, you might want to stay away from those. The fruits that have a lower glucose amount are things like berries, citrus fruits, kiwi, avocado, things like that. They have lower glucose, but they still have glucose. The other thing is all fruits also contain fructose. You have the glucose being turned into fat in the form of triglycerides, and you're having fructose get turned into fat in the form of triglycerides every time you eat these. Now, and again, eat them. If you're going to do it, eat them. Do not drink them for the exact same reason. Now, there's also like grains. They talk about grains. Grains are again just solid glucose. So if you take these grains and you grind them down to a powder, which is what all the ultra processed food companies do, they grind it down to powder. That's just powdered glucose. And notice glucose, if you eat flour, that's not sweet. Glucose isn't sweet. Fructose is the part that's sweet. So that's why they want to put high fructose, because they put this glucose and fructose and sugar in everything in lab made food because they want you addicted. They want you to continuously eat that. They want you to give that sweet taste. They want you to continue eating their product until you die, basically. That's what's actually going on. So grains, flour is just powdered glucose. And again, think about grains, then that's just glucose. How do they fatten cattle up for slaughter? They feed them grains. So even if they're being fed on grass to begin with, then they go and they'll feed them a bunch of grains, which means feeding them a bunch of glucose to fatten those up for slaughter. So fructose fattens up bears, glucose fattens up cattle. Don't you think that both of those are going to fatten us up also, because we are animals? And yes, they do. It all gets turned to triglycerides. Your grains, you're going to want to stay away from those. Those are all glucose. And remember, starch are just long chains of glucose. So you want to go and stay away from the starchy products also. Now, man-made food, all this stuff in the box, bottle, bag, and can that's in the lines, all the grocery store shelves, that's the food that's killing us. That's the food that has nothing but toxins in it. And you've got to stay away from that. And that's what most people eat all day long, every single day. And they don't realize it, because diabetes is pre-diabetes actually lasts for 10, 20, 30, 40 years before you ever start seeing the effects of eating glucose constantly and eating fructose constantly. But once it comes on, that means you filled up all your fat cells and now you're causing organ damage all over your body. You do not want to wait before that happens. Now you're way late in the game. So anytime you eat lab made food, all you're eating is glucose and fructose and seed oils and chemicals, like all the glyphosate and all these chemicals they sprayed on all our food, the chemicals they spray on the food once it gets in the grocery stores. And it's just nothing but chemicals. And these are so inflammatory. Seed oils are absolutely horrible. Nothing healthy about man-made food in the box, bottle, bag, can that has labels on it. You've got to realize that is what's killing us. And they know that. They do this on purpose. They actually have studies where they have people come in and they find what's called the bliss point, just the right amount of fructose to get you where it's not too sweet, but just sweet enough to keep you hungry and keep you wanting more. And that is the real killer. That is what you really need to stay away from. Because remember, and I talk about this a lot, the 3 pillars of disease are when you have high insulin levels, inflammation throughout the body, and high glucose levels. And all of those come from man-made food. That's all they do, is they increase your glucose, they increase your fructose, they increase your inflammation, and they increase your insulin. So that's what you want to stay away from. So now, and if you look at it, type 2 diabetes, whether you have type 2 diabetes or you are starting to have heart attacks and stuff because of on the small, dense LDLs. Remember, there's good LDLs and bad LDLs. The small, dense LDLs, those are the bad ones. And those are produced from having way too many triglycerides that your body's trying to get rid of. And the triglycerides come from converting glucose into triglycerides and converting fructose into triglycerides. So type 2 diabetes starts with you eat glucose, your blood glucose goes up, so your insulin goes up. So your insulin tells your liver turn all that glucose into triglycerides and then to store that in your fat cells until the fat cell can't hold anymore and that fat cell becomes insulin resistant. Now, these small, dense LDLs that are causing all the blood vessel damage and heart attacks, those start the exact same way. You eat glucose, your blood glucose goes up, your blood insulin goes up, your body turns all that glucose into triglycerides. Now you have massive amount of triglycerides that you're trying to get out of the liver and circle around to the body. And when you have all these triglycerides and these VLDLs coming out of the liver, when it shrinks down, it produces these small, dense LDLs. So almost every single disease that you see all starts from you eating glucose. That's the problem. You've got to quit eating glucose or significantly decrease it. How do you get off diabetic medications? How have I gotten people off their diabetic medications in less than 1 month? The way I do that is explain to them they need to keep glucose out of their mouth, because everybody keeps asking, how do I get my glucose down? How do I get my glucose down? And everybody has their own suggestions on how to get the glucose down. That is not the question. The question is, why did your glucose go up in the first place? There's only two ways. Either you're stressed and it takes it out of your very minimal glucose stores that your body has in the body. But the main way by far is because you eat it. And you don't try to get your glucose down, you just quit putting it up. If you quit eating glucose, your glucose levels automatically come down. I've gotten people who've been diabetics for over 17 years. They were on insulin, they were on GLP-1s, they were on all these diabetic medications that actually make diabetes worse. I've gotten them off all these medications in less than 1 month for the exact same reason. Now, that's not totally reversing their diabetes yet, but what you're doing is once you change your eating habits, you keep your glucose low so you're not eating glucose, your blood glucose stays down. When your blood glucose stays down, your insulin levels stay down. And remember, when your insulin levels stay down, you force your body to eat the fat out of its fat cells. And that is how you lose weight. That's how you reverse diabetes, because diabetes is full fat cells. So if you continue to, and this is a lifestyle change, this is not a diet, this is eating healthy. When you eat healthy, you are very much limiting the amount of fructose and way limiting the amount of glucose that you are eating. And that is how you keep your glucose down, your insulin down, and you burn the fat for your energy source. You don't get hungry, you decrease blood pressure. Everything is around the same one thing. And I've done podcasts on this too. The answer to good health can be summed up in one sentence: keep your insulin levels low. That's all I'm trying to tell you. And the way to keep your insulin levels low is keep glucose out of your mouth. And I just told you all the places that glucose comes from. And if you think about it, when you go out to eat somewhere, look around on people's plates, you may see just a little bit of meat. Okay, say they have a hamburger. You got a little bit of meat on your hamburger, and then you have the bun, which is horrible. That's glucose, fructose, seed oils. Buns are horrible, because buns that are made here, sold in grocery stores and sold in restaurants, are just glucose, fructose, seed oils. They're horrible. So you look around, you have a little bit of meat, you have the bun, then people have these vegetables along with it. Sometimes they may have fries. They're going to have their whatever it's called, their French fries. Okay. French fries. The main thing that's wrong with French fries, or anything that you get out when you go eating out, anything you get fried is probably going to be fried in seed oils, soybean oil, safflower, sunflower oil, all these oils, canola oil, Crisco, all that is horrible. Vegetable oils are extremely inflammatory to your body. So it's not necessarily the potato that you're getting with the French fry that's bad. It's the seed oil. So anytime you eat something fried, you are putting more inflammation into your body, and seed oils are toxic. But again, the French fry itself is potato. Potatoes do have starch. Starch are long chains of glucose. So you're getting the inflammation and you're getting the glucose every time you eat that. And that's how people mostly are. They're going to get a little bit of protein, and they have breads. They have all these little vegetables and all this stuff around them where all they're doing is carbohydrates and eating just a little bit of protein and fat. That is the exact wrong thing to do, the exact opposite. You should make your animal-based foods your main course by far, and then just use your fruits and vegetables as condiments. If you want to put lettuce and tomato on your burger, that's fine. Just get rid of the bun and just eat the lettuce and tomato with your burger. And that's all you got to do, is learn how to eat a hamburger with a fork and knife instead of picking it up and holding it with that toxic bun that's on it. Eating healthy means giving your body the nutrients it needs to grow, heal, thrive, and survive. That means giving it protein, fat, cholesterol, vitamins, and minerals. That's going to come from your animal-based products. If you don't know if something's animal-based, is every time you go to get a bite of food, look at it and say, did that come from an animal? Like eggs, cheese, butter, milk, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, meat, fish, all that comes from animals. If it did not come from an animal, it came from a plant. If it came from a plant, that means that it has glucose in it. And we just talked about which plants have more than others. And by far, the thing that's killing everybody is the fact that they snack on man-made laboratory toxic frankenfood all day long, every single day. When you do that, you're keeping your insulin levels high. You're putting fructose in your body, so it's causing inflammation. You're getting all that glucose and fructose turned into triglycerides, and you are stuffing that in your fat cells. And the worst thing is I see all these teens and 20s and 30-year-olds eating this stuff every single day, all throughout the day. And I know when I look at them, I know they are getting larger and they're getting sicker, and they don't even realize it until they keep doing this for about 10 more years. And all of a sudden now they're going to have pains, they're going to have high blood pressure, they're going to have prediabetes or diabetes. And that means they're starting, remember, type 2 diabetes, that's not just one condition, that's an umbrella. When you have type 2 diabetes, that means you have the three pillars of disease: high glucose, high insulin, and high inflammation. And when you have those, you are deteriorating every single organ in your body. So that's what eating healthy means. Eat something that has protein, fat, cholesterol, vitamins, and minerals, and very much minimize your carbohydrates. So what do you do to eat healthy? First thing, definitely stop drinking sugar. So all this sugar, this soda pop, fruit juice, energy drinks, you've got to stop that. And artificial sweeteners, they're not a whole lot better. They still stimulate your insulin. So also stop eating laboratory made food, everything in box, bottle, bag, and can, all these chips, cookies, crackers, people eat all through the day, every day. You've got to stop snacking. That stuff is killing you way more than you realize that it is. And that's on purpose. If you realize, if you just eat a bag of chips and you fall over dead right then, everybody'd say, oh, stay away from the chips. But since you can eat this stuff and you have fat cells all over your body, so your body can take care of this for a few decades before, or a couple decades before it starts causing trouble, nobody really realizes is that what's going on. So you've got to stop snacking. Also, minimize your fruits and minimize your vegetables according to what your health status is. If you get healthy, if you have a low percent of body fat and you've got energy and you're eating healthy, you only eat once or twice a day, you don't snack, you're not eating all these carbohydrates. Every once in a while, if you want to eat carbohydrates, that's no big deal. If you want to have a potato, go ahead. Your body is used to that. It's called metabolic flexibility. That means it uses fat for its normal energy cycles. When you get stressed, it uses glucose for your fight or flight energy. When the stress is over, your glucose goes back down, insulin goes back down, and you start using fat for energy source. That is healthy. That's the way we're supposed to be. That's metabolic flexibility, is being able to go back and forth. But when you eat carbohydrates constantly all through the day, you never tap into your fat cells. All you do is continuously stuff them. Stop eating laboratory made food. Stop snacking. Minimize your fruits and vegetables. Definitely stop all your sugar sweetened beverages and eat mainly animal based foods. And if you do that, I guarantee, I have had a lot of people that have done this way of eating, and they were off all their diabetic medications in less than a month. Now, it may take 3 months before your doctor will actually realize that what you're doing is correct, because doctors don't know this. They don't even know about insulin levels. If you want to get your insulin level, you can do this on your own. They go to ownyourlabs.com. And once you do that, and you just do this on the computer, you don't need your physician to do this. Go to ownyourlabs.com, click on whatever lab you want, like the fasting insulin. It only costs $15. You'll take that into a blood draw place in your town, like LabCorp or Quest. They'll draw your blood for free, and you can have the results back within the week. My wife did that, and her insulin level was 3.5, and that was perfect. Your insulin levels on the sheet, it may say that your range is less than 20. You want to have your insulin less than 20. If you're up around 20, you are pre-diabetic. If your insulin is high and your glucose is normal, that's pre-diabetes. If your insulin's high and your glucose is high, that's full-blown diabetes. So the only way you're going to know if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic is to know what your insulin level is. And that's how you do it. Only $15, and that will tell you a lot of stuff. If you eat this way, you will get off your diabetic medications and probably blood pressure medications and other things as well. So there's nothing wrong with eating healthy, and there is a lot wrong with eating this toxic food. So until next time, stay nourished and stay well.